really see the change in climate and the impact of the hydrologic cycle presenting challenges to utilities to fulfill their public health mission and to fulfill their ability to be sustainable in their operations. So there's a lot of sort of direct impacts and then associated challenges with those impacts that utilities might face. And just in some of the research I did before I got here, I've tried to outline those in a little bit more detail for you. So the potential for declining rainfall, and I think we've seen some trends over the last 20 years and actually currently experience a bit of a drought across the islands. Reduced stream flow from those reduced rainfall amounts, increasing temperatures, and there could be several factors causing that. Rising sea level, which may not just cause inundation problems, but also has potential to cause problems with saltwater intrusion. It may push development upland and start impacting some of your forested areas, which might further reduce recharge. And then the potential for further pipe corrosion as that lens changes, and you might see more corrosion in pipes, both on the drinking water and wastewater side. We've seen some potential changes in the trade wind regime here, and I think there's a lot of research going into understanding that more. And then this intensity and frequency of drought as well as severe events. There's, as Chip said, there's more moisture in the atmosphere, so when the storms do come, the potential for heavier rainfall events is there, and potentially even stronger winds. So a lot of potential things to worry about here in Hawaii. I just had downloaded the drought monitor. I think there might be an updated one from the 9th, but you can see varying levels of drought across the islands that currently are maybe causing challenges to, probably more so for agriculture right now, but in the long term might impact utilities. And then the converse, we've seen heavy rain events here, and I don't think it's normal for people to paddleboard over there by the zoo, so I thought that was a really great picture. It sort of shows the potential of what these heavy rain events might do to the way of life here. So these are just 4 of the documents that I reviewed in preparation for this talk and my trip over here, and I thought provided a really good amount of information, the framework for climate change adaptation, and some of these briefing sheets that Chip has developed. There is some uncertainty, and I wanted to acknowledge this, and this cartoon may not be the most appropriate one, and if it's a little blurry, so I'll read it. So it just says, once again, there's no conclusive evidence of climate change, and from Fairbanks, Alaska, this is Joe Matthews reporting. So, in terms of the specific impacts, the timing of those impacts, the severity of those impacts, there is some uncertainty there, and a lot of the science is based on modeling. But on the other hand, there is a great deal of I think certainty that some of these things will happen, and so we need to start preparing now. Despite this uncertainty, there's things that we do know, there's trends that we are seeing, and there's things that utilities can do, what we call a no regrets strategy, that are going to help other parts of utility operations as well as help prepare for a changing climate. So the other program I work on is our Climate Ready Water Utilities program, and we're really trying to provide that practical information for utilities to help them adapt to climate change, help them understand some of the basics of the climate science out there, and provide them with the tools and information they need to actually make changes in their operations or planning or infrastructure. Our foundation is in the National Drinking Water Advisory Council, which is a official federal advisory committee to the Office of Water. They provided us 11 findings and 12 recommendations that we're actively trying to implement within our program. And they developed this adaptive response framework and advised us to implement that within our program and help utilities become more, as they call, climate ready. An intentionally provocative term. It doesn't really have much of a official meaning. Basically, it's a continuous cycle of activities, raising your awareness of your potential impacts, understanding changes in policies, working with federal, state, and local partners to start to adapt, and as well as with your communities. So we think this adaptive response framework is a great way and a great approach for utilities to use with climate change. And from my observations, a lot of these activities are already occurring here in Hawaii. I covered this report. So I'm going to go through and just briefly show you some of our resources. The first one is called the Adaptation Strategies Guide. This guide really is a great place to start if you haven't learned about climate change and its potential impacts to your utility. It's a PDF document. We intentionally aren't printing copies because it navigates itself like a website. There's clickable links throughout it. It provides a basis of climate science and impacts, as well as potential adaptation measures based on your geographic location, as well as the impacts that you're interested in. It also provides an introduction and a foundation for the adaptation planning process, which may not be unique to different parts of your operation, but for some folks, this concept of an adaptive management philosophy, it's really similar to the plan, do, act, check kind of philosophy, but in a climate context. So we wanted to make sure people had some guidance on that, and we actually provide a template for you to start an adaptation plan within this document. So this just shows you the organization of the document. We provide information by region, by these challenge group briefs, individual challenge briefs, and then this adaptation planning worksheet. And I'm just going to quickly run through these slides to show you the look and feel. I'm going to gloss over some of the content because I think it's a really great document to check out on your own. So this is an example of one of these regional briefing sheets. Gives you some information on sort of what utilities can expect from a narrative perspective. This is drawn from the U.S. Global Change Research Program 2009 assessment report. It provides an example of how climate might impact that region, and then gives you the challenges within your region that you might want to face. And then you're able to click on one of these challenge groups. So for example, we could click on water quality degradation, and it takes you to another sheet. On this sheet, it talks about the individual, we call challenges or impacts related to water quality degradation, and then provides you with adaptation options related to planning, infrastructure, and operations that you might want to implement. The other feature is, the star next to some of these are some of these no regrets. These are things that would probably be good to do at your utility, even if you're not planning for climate change. They're just general good practices to undertake. So we tried to highlight those for folks and also provide an estimate of potential costs, because there's an understanding that some of these items may cost more than others. Some of them may not be feasible for utility right now. So it might help you prioritize, just like you do like with your water supply planning. If you have to move to a different supply, you've probably started to prioritize what's going to cost more or what's more feasible for you in the short term versus the long term. So you can click on one of these individual challenges, such as low flow conditions and altered water quality, and that'll give you again, another level of detail related to that. So we have more climate information for you, we have a list of adaptation options, and then we provide case studies of utilities that have faced these impacts before you and what they've done to address them. We found this to be a really popular item within the document because it's good to learn from others that have already been through this, and so these case studies have a lot of powerful information in them. And this just gives you another sort of highlight of what some of these strategies look like. I'm going to skip over this really quick. So we're currently updating the document to include sections on green infrastructure, which seems to be a really important aspect of stormwater control and wastewater management, as well as energy management, which I think is also an important topic for you here in Hawaii. So we're hoping to get that done in the next 6 months or so. For folks that have used this adaptation strategies guide and want to further their adaptation planning, we started to develop this extreme weather events workshop planner. And the concept behind this workshop planner is to allow utilities to bring together different sections within the utility as well as outside watershed partners and come together to talk about what some of these impacts might be, how they might start planning collaboratively for these climate impacts, and start to really flesh out and prioritize the actions that they're going to use moving forward. So within this workshop planner, we've tried to provide all the materials you would need to actually organize and host one of those workshops yourself. So we sort of guide the user through a series of steps and process, identifying participants, identifying your objectives, setting forth a timeline, how do you register people, everything that goes into a workshop we've tried to include here in this document. Again, looking at these more intense and frequent extreme events. So flooding, drought, sea level rise, wildfire, and snowpack changes are the scenarios we focus on. You can deal with them individually or you can group them together as well. We're hoping that'll be released by the end of this year. We also have our risk assessment tool, the Climate Resilience Evaluation and Awareness Tool. How many folks did a vulnerability assessment from the Bioterrorism Act and used the VSAT software technology? See a couple hands. So this CREATE tool is based off of VSAT, which may be familiar to some of you folks. Basically what we wanted to do is provide a way for utilities to organize their climate change risk assessment. So how do you catalog your assets that might be impacted? What threats might you face? How resilient are those assets to those current threats right now? And how will that change in the future? So if you have a critical pump station that might be inundated by sea level rise, do you have measures in place right now, such as a berm or seawall or something to protect it? Or is that something that you're going to need to take on with rising sea levels? And sort of what's your risk tolerance and what costs might you face? So this tool guides you through that process, provides you with some local climate data, which I'll show you, and really organizes this framework and provides you with these libraries of information, which are also contained in the strategies guide. And so here's just some screenshots to show you sort of the organization and the flow of how the tool looks. There's very detailed climate science information in here, similar to the Adaptation Strategies Guide in a narrative format. And then we provide some actually quantitative information. This actually shows Mobile, Alabama, but it provides a little bit more better sense of the scale. This is a ½ kilometer, the latitude and longitude scale, which I forget actually how many square kilometers that is. But basically we've been able to catalog some climate science information at this scale. So here's Honolulu, for example, and to show you, actually the island doesn't even fully fit into one of these squares. So, if I was looking at this, I'd say we need maybe some more local information, but this will at least maybe provide me with a high-level understanding of what some of the trends might be related to future climate changes. So we provide these charts as well as some tables, and what we've done is taken the volume of climate change models and used some tools to help us summarize this information for 3 scenarios at 2 time periods: warm and wet, hot and dry, and somewhere in the middle. And it's been summarized and provided at the years 2035 and 2060, which are 30-year averages. So we downloaded this. This is from a Waikiki climate station, and you can see at 2035 the differences on the upper left between those 2 bars. The blue one is projected, this is temperature, so you can see it's maybe about 2 degrees higher over the course of a year at 2035. The hot and dry scenario, precipitation doesn't change much. We also provide intense precipitation amounts. So you can see in the bottom left corner here, the projected intense precipitation event is slated to rise. So you're going to see heavier downpours. And then on the right, we provide 3 different estimates for sea level rise, because there's a lot of uncertainty there what the ice sheet melting will do for sea level rise. So there's a series of these charts within the document, and then we provide the ability to look at the sea level rise data in a little bit more of a detailed way. You can actually also add subsidence or rebound and tide gauge information to make it even more locally customizable. So we provide a low, a medium, and a high level estimate, which is similar to, I think, what Chip was referring to. In our